And headquarters, okay, whatever you like, but they don't want to take risk.
Right.
And their responsibility is bottom line. If you can't get profit,
Right.
you're going to be degraded
Right.
whenever you're coming back to Japan.
Right. So people, they get a target, improve 3 to 5%, and that's it.
It's
So-
easy. Consider for past 20 years, okay, I'm assigned to Indonesia, I'm assigned to Singapore. Past 5 years, next 5 years, okay, it's the same as it is, but he's just stable.
Yeah.
He can keep stable position. But now is okay, I assigned to Singapore, the profit is from 3% to 10%. I'm overseas 15%, okay? But my company is 3 in the past. So he just keeps 3%, it's good enough, instead of 10%, 15%.
Mm.
He don't take risk.
No, it's better also to
Good
wait.
example is China. Many Japanese companies went to China past 50 years. Which company success? Right? This tells that
Fast
actually
retailing, maybe.
many people they don't.
Right.
And this is they try not to take responsibility.
And most companies actually they go to China not to gain consumer customers. They're just going there to reduce their costs, so business process.
Exactly.
Outsourcing.
Exactly. And even if like some cases like which one? Shiseido. A few companies doing success there, or
Yeah.
Uniqlo, but not many. So I think Japanese need to consider for negotiation skill toward European people, American people, what they should do.
So what they should do.
Okay, you just wrote a list. Okay,
Right.
Why they cannot success, but in the past 50 years they didn't get success in
Right.
China, Asia Pacific, all over the world.
They were extremely successful, actually. To be fair, because the Japanese businesses they actually were extremely successful in the 80s because they made superior products. But at that time, it was still mass production against lower prices. So the Japanese cost structure, the cost of labor versus the number of hours, the effort they would put in.
Not anymore. This
Not
is
anymore.
20 years ago.
Yeah. So, but at that time they were extremely successful, and mass products were still in demand. So they made a product that was superior quality at a lower price point than a lot of other countries, other producers. But yeah, unfortunately, that model has been copied, and now other countries are trying to do the same thing.
Recently, Chinese companies get more and more skill, technology skill. Like 5G, one example, auto drive skill is very advanced, and Japanese still some area have advantage. But it seems to me most problem is not product kind of sort of technology. Japanese has far behind for how to communicate with overseas people, like not like a Chinese people. So what kind of action we should take for this negotiation? This is we should do something for outside people, right? And not only language training. Any other effort we should put on it.
So a good negotiator is a good listener, takes responsibility.
Okay, for example, if I'm going to take one issue like negotiation, is not only language.
No.
What is it?
It is so not only language. Like one crucial skill, I believe, is debate, critical thinking.
Okay, critical thinking. What is it?
Critical thinking is basically looking at the other side and looking at the what is on the table and think, okay, sure, I can
at
see,
the other side. So
Right.
at the other side. Yeah.
and looking at the other side, trying to understand and say, okay, how can we do this better? How can we actually? So you're saying this, but okay, what if we would do this or would that? So basically, think out of the box and try to be creative and say, okay, well, you say this, but what if we flip this around? What if we, instead of going left, why don't we just try and see if we can go right and do it and do it that way? that requires abstract thinking. So I believe that the Japanese way of trying to grasp reality is by digging into detail.
They are not.
They are. They're digging into detail. They're looking at details instead of the bigger picture. So Europeans, they like to look at the bigger picture. They try to make a global model, and from there say, okay, so let's agree on the main points first. Let's look at the 80%, 80-20 rule. So they're going to look at the 80. They're trying to grab like 80% in a model, accepting the fact that they do not yet look at, for example, details like, okay, but how is the data migration going to look like, etc. That's of later concern. So let's look at the big picture first. So this kind of attitude, I think this is something that very well resonates with any European.
Japanese, they do not have it
No,
in the history.
I think this is really a cultural thing.
Never experienced.
This is a cultural thing. Yeah.
So they need to change culture.
It would be beneficial if people go to business school like Kimoto-san, because you learn this stuff at Globus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Groups taught us the think a big picture.
Yeah. They teach that in business school.
So Japanese company, culture still, even if like a Globus is very much more emphasized on critical things, but Japanese companies' culture never changed.
Yeah.
Change?
Yeah.
Changing.
Not change.
Right.
Why
right.
they cannot change it? Why they cannot change it?
Because Japanese are very details.
Right.
Why they cannot change it? Even Globus try to, not only Globus, many companies try to make an effort, but
Because, for example, junior high school and university don't taught critical thinking.
Right. Look at the way that Japan is testing and quizzing their students. How you get into university? That's by knowing details. A lot of details. You grasp a lot of information. So you are being trained to absorb a lot of information and be able to reproduce the kind of esoteric, non-relevant information. So not essay writing, not trying to be creative, look at the bigger picture, but it's very much detail oriented.
it means they cannot change it.
No, it means that they have not changed it.
This morning we discussed Zhang Zi is his concept is we need to consider for broad mind, wider perspective, and you observe anything from the cosmos, not into detail, grasp broader mind.
Right.
So this is 2,500 years ago. He just talking about that, which Japanese does not have. But they were different. But what you're talking about very similar. Japanese need to consider for the more broader mind, and this is
the bigger picture, to create a vision, to create a narrative for yourself. Like, what do you believe in? Your story. What does your world look like? Not a bunch of unrelated details, but what is like? Put yourself in a helicopter and look down and
why
what do
they
you
can't
see?
make it the kind of grand strategy type of planning. Why they can't do it?
I think people are part of that mechanism. In Europe, we are individuals. We are individuals first. So we look at the world from our viewpoint. In Japan, we are not individuals first. We are part of that organization. So we are actually inside that organization. That is where we belong. So people look at details because they don't put themselves first. They put the organization first. So I think it's really a cultural thing and logical that Japanese people tend to be more detail oriented because their organization is more important than they are. Whereas in Europe, we feel that we are more important than the organization.
And Japanese instead of strategic approach, they like how to implement approach, right?
So, but not from this point, but actually looking at what passes through their hands and coming up with very ingenious, very highly sophisticated ways to actually improve their process and be getting better and better and better, with a lot of diligence, with a lot of dedication to detail. But it is subarashi. We can't do that.
It's problem. They cannot fix it.
Well, I mean, more and more Japanese people are going to business school, right? And this is where
Not many.
really,
Business school is currently Indonesian, Asian country people coming to study here, Chinese in Japan. And if you go to graduate school, very few
a
Japanese.
graduate, yeah, but that's because a graduate school is very highly appreciated outside of Japan, but not inside Japan. Graduate school is kind of like.
And also
People-
the Japanese university, they don't teach kind of strategic approach, I believe. And the Japanese education system is sort of scholar type education. Or maybe they are just more hot topics they try to handle, but I don't know well. But actually, Japanese business society never changed it, right? This proves the current problem, right? Or not strategic approach. They cannot handle it. How they're going to do it? This is education.
Well, education definitely is part of the problem, I feel.
But Takahashi always say he feels very difficult. He feels it's very difficult to change corporate planning direction. Corporate planner they are not wrong, but they cannot make a drastic strategic planning. Maybe many board members conservative. This one reason. Conservative. So he cannot make drastic planning. Like Uniqlo is owner is very strong leadership. He can do it whatever he wants. But few companies can do that.
So I recently, for the first time when in Japan, I visited the boardroom, and I must say that actually, top management in the boardroom was much more progressive than middle management. Much more strategic, much more looking at the bigger picture.
But he cannot do it in Japanese company, right? He is aggressive, but he cannot decide by himself.
Right. So I don't know whether every boardroom is like that.
He needs to follow on the majority people opinion.
Right. Or, I mean, you can evangelize. So what I try to do in my company is to evangelize, to create a movement, to create a story, constantly keep that story and try to sell it. In my current company.
Oh, okay.
But maybe that's acceptable when you're a foreigner, but not if you're a Japanese.
What's that?
So
What do you say?
trying to create a movement, trying to evangelize, trying to create change, even as a middle management person, to constantly reinforce your story and try to persuade others to follow, is probably something that is not accepted if you are a Japanese person, but is well accepted if you're a European.
Non-Japanese more acceptable.
Yeah.
Understandable.
That's difficult. That's difficult for Japanese people to change the organization from within. For a Western person, it's easier.
Yeah, that's the reason why the Japanese company try to hire a consulting company to get some suggestion from outside.
Right. Right. So this is actually a problem, because if companies really need to change, structurally need to change, you need people who actually going to look at the bigger picture, who can direct a company, be strategic and give direction to the company, instead of looking at the details and try to improve what's better. So my assignment was to improve workflows, the way that people work, to let them work more efficient. But that was not the problem. People were not the problem was not really that people were inefficient. Sure, there was place for improvement. The problem was that people were working on the wrong things. So
exactly, this is what I want to discuss a little bit more. And instead of how to improve productivity, but the major concern problem is not how to. They are doing wrong things, and they need to focus on what you should do.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but many companies, they do not recognize kind of issues. They're much more training is how to many how to program education of the people, but this is they don't solve the issues.
Right.
Okay, now is we try to increase productivity more. It means they try to much more focus on training how to increase productivity, more higher productivity.
Right.
No. This is you need to much more concerned about what you should do. What you should do means you yourself need to change. Okay.
Yeah.
But this is they don't understand. This is my opinion is, right? Am I right?
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, definitely. I mean, you can be very efficient at making a horse wagon, but it's definitely not going to be of being very trying to develop skills to become.
Are you preparing kind of material like that?
Yeah, sure.
Why don't you give it to me?
But it's like my presentation style, right? So
Yeah,
I have just 3 slides and just with a few words and images.
Okay, few slides. Yeah.
Right.
Why don't you give it to
So
me?
I gave a presentation to the board of directors, 2 slides, just 2 slides. So that
Oh my God! You can speak 1 slide for 20 minutes, but I can't do that. Yeah, 3 lines and I finish 3 minutes. But you can pinpoint, what the message is supposed to be. This is the same thing, I try to sell any company. Uno School's message is not how to. Okay, you should focus on what you should do. But this is more important than how to manage.
Right.
But what you should manage, this is more important. But Japanese company, they do not understand. Okay, it means productivity increase. Okay, what kind of method we should adopt for productivity increase, or IT tool, or communication approach, or some sort of things that we can deliver, mailing system, so forth. Okay, this is also important, but also what they should do.
Yeah, or especially for most Japanese companies, what they should not do.
What should not do?
Yeah.
This is a Confucius teach that what should not do the first.
Right.
Good point. I just need to write.
So maybe we should take a break and save the video.
Yeah. Okay, just today's negotiation skill. I had a good discussion with you, and we are moving to Africa. Okay, just okay.
I,
We try to.
today you got the suntan.
What you got? What you say?
I've been on the tennis court for 4 hours だから。
4 hours, it's very tough.
So, but to be honest with you, I feel a little